from Significant. This is Crack It in an Hour.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. Every time I do this, I try to channel my inner Simon with the hello, and I don't think I'm getting better at it.
That
was pretty good.
felt pretty good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, Canada, France, brother in arms. Welcome to another episode of Crack It. One problem once a week, 1 hour to crack it. People say we should call it not Crack It in an Hour.
Oh,
because
come
some naysayer
on.
have been saying we never crack it. But is that the point?
No.
Is it? I don't know. Who knows? All right. I am
That's
the
what we
host
should
today.
crack. Why don't we crack it in an hour?
That's going to be a pretty quick one.
Let's bring in a life coach.
I am the host today, so I'm going to keep talking. Jesse, you got the clock. Let's go. And I'm going to bring you a subject that, I was surprised we haven't brought earlier, but I guess it makes sense that I'm the one to bring it. Because I'm the ESL in the room. For those of you who don't know, ESL for our European audience is English as a second language. And I want to talk about why America doesn't speak a second language.
Oh, God.
And how do we get America to speak a second language?
Man.
And Biz, I know you're going to love this one.
I just wanted to have fun.
We forgot the intros. I'm Romain.
I'm
Who
Jesse.
are you? And who are you?
I'm Biz.
Yeah, here we are. Look at that. We're doing everything in reverse. When Simon's not here, we're lost. All right. Let me give you just a couple data points. What was interesting in the data is that anytime I was digging a little bit, it was quickly getting to reasons why. And I don't know, maybe we want to unpack the reasons why together versus the data. You tell me.
Yeah, I like that.
There's pretty obvious data, and when you start comparing to other markets, that's the one way frame of reference that you can use. That's the lowest hanging fruit. And it's what's interesting is that America but doesn't get to the goal.
It's interesting, yeah.
It might not be the goal, which we can talk about. So only 7% of U.S. adults say they speak a second language very well. That's from the Pew Research Center.
Yep.
In Europe, very well. In Europe, 59% can hold a conversation. 28% can speak two or more. That's from the European Commission.
It's a lot.
So it clearly operates. It's a different game.
Totally.
It's playing a different. There's many reasons, right? We're going to unpack that. And I'm almost tempted to. I have a lot more data, but we get into the reasons. I'm almost tempted to stop here and start talking about the why, because the reasons. They're systemic reasons.
That's where my head goes immediately.
And there's cultural/behavioral reasons too, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting, when you start unpacking, you get to, that's interesting. And then the AI conversation is going to happen, and the gamification conversation will happen, and all of that good stuff. But let me pause here. And, when I mentioned the subject 58 seconds ago, Biz was like, "Oh God!" There was a non-visible eye roll that happened.
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
And I'm like, just tell me, what's your gut reaction, both of you, when I bring that up?
For me, immediately what came up was just the ego of America, and that sort of was my response of the eye roll of we're the greatest country. English is the greatest language, and there's no need for you to do much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it very easily gets into a pretty heavy political conversation too. But that was my initial sort of just weight of it, where I'm like, oh, this is kind of a big one.
Yeah.
But when I think about what people desire and the behaviors to actually get people to speak a second language, that's really cool and exciting to me.
Yeah. I agree. I think, well, first of all, I think there's going to be a bunch of listeners who are shocked to find out that English is your second language, because nobody can seem to figure out where you're from.
Yeah, but that means they know it's a second language. They just don't know what the first one is.
I don't know. There was a lot of argument once on Instagram about how you were American or Canadian. I don't think a single person.
That's when I talked about the drinking culture.
Exactly.
People were like, "Go back to Russia." I'm
Russia.
Romain.
Guys, Russia.
I think it's funny, like my initial reaction is actually so personal because I feel so deeply embarrassed that we don't prioritize it as a country.
Totally.
And that it really is on the individual here to learn a language. And I think if you don't have, if you don't have parents that prioritize it, then you're sort of like trying to do it in adulthood. And it's hard. It's really hard to learn once you're an adult. And it's like, for me, it carries a lot of shame that we don't. And I would not say I speak a second language well.
And obviously this is not meant to be like a shaming exercise.
No,
but
totally. But it's
something that's always struck me is like, I think pretty much anyone you talk to, like the dinner table conversation with people you like barely know, and like a little bit of small talk, a little bit of getting into like personal experience, there's always a bit about, I learned German, French, Spanish in high school, but I can't speak anything.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating.
Yeah, it's not even it's like up until high school or through high school. So, it's like literally like what, 15 years of just learning a different language, but you walk away knowing like some colors and some numbers and a couple of ways to address your teacher, and that's crazy.
I mean, I'll tell you, like, so I studied German through high school, and actually technically I have a minor degree in German. And
good to know.
I studied at Heidelberg University in Germany, where all of my classes were in German. So there was a point in my life where I was at least fluent from I could talk about film and English and like basically subjects and like things around that fluently in German, because all of my classes were in German. I had to do all of my work in German, everything.
So you speak German?
Well, I think but it's funny, like if you ask me to talk about, I think your vocabulary gets limited outside of some of those subject matters when you're learning it through education versus through living. But what I found often living in Germany is every German native's English is so much better than your German.
Yeah.
That when you're trying really hard to engage in German, they're like, let's just speak English. And you're like, well, okay.
Yeah.
And I think for them, I think a lot of the German friends I had, for them, they were excited to practice English, but also it was just a much smoother experience for both of us. And so even when you were trying, and I find it a lot in when I lived in Mexico and I was learning Spanish, like the same thing would happen.
Yeah.
And I think I do think that's one of the challenges, in at least not from the beginning of your question about like learning it, but I do think it's why it's hard sometimes for people to stick to it, even when they're trying.
What's interesting is, like, to your point, Biz, 89% of U.S. high school graduates earn credits from learning a language.
Yeah.
So that's like
incentivized.
Everybody's kind of like, so people start, they don't stick with it. But the system is structurally not set up to produce like a level of, you don't need to be bilingual, but a level of fluency that makes you comfortable, because it's said that you need anywhere between 1,000 and 2,200 hours to get to some level of professional proficiency. And a typical U.S. student gets about 400 hours or less, which is really interesting. It's like, my first thought is, but then why? Like, is the American system from an education standpoint just meant to give you a taste and then you choose what you want to do? Is that what happens, generally speaking, for any subject? And if that's not the case, then why not push it a little more? There's plenty of countries with like English is mandatory from age 11 or 10 until college included. Right? So you're going to study for like 12 years.
I think part of it is most of it doesn't start until high school. So you're learning kindergarten language, first elementary language as a 16, 17, 18. Yeah, basically you're graduating with the proficiency of like a 4-year-old, because you started. Yeah. You're basically spending 2, maybe 3 years doing it. I think absolutely from a systemic side, the earlier
The better.
that you either have the option or are forced to do it, the much, much better it's going to be.
Actually, I take that back. In Europe, in plenty of places, it's way before 11. 11 is middle school, and it starts in elementary.
I mean, literally,
Yeah.
I think I was 16 when I started learning German. So, even by the time I went to Germany at 2020, 4 years later.
The American Academy of Arts and Sciences say that only 15 to maybe 25% tops of elementary schools offer a language program, which is actually the best moment to start. Anyway, we all know that.
I've always thought it was interesting, like at least what I remember is that in language is bucketed under arts.
Oh.
Like they literally call it language arts, at least where I was. And I've always thought that was an interesting, I think if there are, besides some of the very obvious things of like, move it up, make it mandatory, do it earlier, all of that, I think seeing language as a critical business tool versus seeing it as an art might be, I don't know that we could ever convince America to think that way, but if I did have a magic wand and I could shift the mindset, I think it would already prioritize it as something important versus treating it like I wish people took art more seriously, but unfortunately the education system deprioritizes art and language has always been bucketed, at least where I grew up, under like more art than business, science, math, like it was.
Do you think it should be business or social?
I think it would depend on the language, right? And sort of like your exact study underneath it.
Yeah, I mean, and if I think if I had the ability to manipulate Americans, I would aim towards business more than social. I think it would be I think of all the things, it would be the hook, like your chance at making money. Like I'm literally just trying to think of some of the things that actually motivate people here to change systems. And I'm not saying I agree that that's the ideal place to put it, but I think if you wanted a shot at trying to reprioritize its importance, I think business and money-making outcomes is probably a good way to go in.
Yeah.
Man, so interesting.
I think there's the obvious first conversation we're having is about education.
Totally.
But what about outside the classroom? Or like culturally speaking, what happens outside the classroom could have a big impact on that subject.
There's some, I feel like I'm forgetting like the exact like programs, but I feel like there's been more like sort of kids entertainment that has been more around language, like learning Spanish or
Dora the Explorer.
And like that's kind of interesting to me, just because that's when your brain, to the point, is like most sort of receptive of learning without it necessarily needing to be this like active, you have like a willpower. It's more just like you're learning and it's happening to you. So I think like kids entertainment or education outside of the classroom is kind of interesting.
Love that. So many people I know who learned English talk about learning it through watching like Friends and sitcoms.
Exactly.
Or it's like one of the best ways that obviously they didn't learn fundamentals there, but it like really shifted from, sure, I know the numbers and the colors, to I actually understand some of the conversational nuances and like the humor and some of the things that are
puts it in context.
Less tangible. Yeah, puts it in context. I really like that education piece, and it makes me think why as adults, or I'll speak for myself, why I don't take that route even now more often to try to learn a language.
There's something I heard, and I never fact checked it as I was probably a teenager or young adult, whatever, when I was still in Europe, that one of the reasons why I think it was the Dutch or the Swedes speak such a good English because they never dubbed the movies. One of the reasons, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think yes.
And in France growing up, you would have like, it was dubbed, and it was, it was as shit as it can, whatever, as good as a dub movie can be.
Yeah.
There's a positive spin.
Exactly. There's an American spin on it. But in like, if you travel and you meet like the Swedes and the Dutch, like speak such a good English at a young age. And they're probably doing a bunch of things that many countries could
learn from.
Learn from, yeah.
I think music is really powerful because of all like the sort of individual pull toward it, but also music is the way that the brain learns most easily language. So like there's sort of that thing that we can do, right, of like before a big test when you're trying to like keep in mind like a bunch of different answers, you could make it into a song, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it works on the brain in a different way.
Mnemonic, yeah.
Yeah, mnemonic. And I know even just from like different like kids now, like they know more like Korean now than ever because K-pop is so big and like all these different
That's
areas.
cool.
And so it's kind of interesting to think about it through like a cultural lens. All of that music already exists, but interesting to think about that like earlier on as like a device to learn language. It's kind of cool.
Yes. Like the Korean example is so good, and we touched on it, I think, in a past episode with Luke on how like Korea as a government made a conscious business decision to export Korean culture, and especially with a big push to the US with food,
beauty,
with entertainment, including music, including film. Like 15 years ago, no one had heard of K-pop and Korean directors, and now they're winning Oscars and winning and the Grammys and everything you can think of. So their strategy worked for sure. And I don't know the intricacies of it, but even like Korean food as part of like now pop culture, it's massive. Like everybody, at least in the US, in the metropolis, has tried some type of Korean food, right? Which is fascinating because 15 years ago it wasn't the case. So like if there is a decision that's made by someone who has the authority or the power or like the strategy and the money, then there's a way to do it.
Yeah, totally.
Right? In a way.
Totally.
Which is one of the things that triggered that conversation.
Yeah.
So culture, massive.
Is English the top language from a global perspective?
I would say probably not, but just because of the sheer volume of...
Isn't it Chinese?
I would say
Chinese.
Mandarin? Chinese, Mandarin, or Spanish.
Okay.
But I'm not entirely sure. I'm not familiar with the different dialects in India either, because there's like many people over there. But I'm 99% sure it's not.
So what's the... but from a secondary language perspective, English is pretty common, right?
Yes, because it's the business language.
Because of the business.
Yeah.
And you touched on culture, music.
Culture.
Like British and American music have been exporting themselves like for decades.
Yeah.
Like it started like when, I don't even know when, like pre-war, pre-Second World War. You see what I mean? It was like, so it's culture has been a big part of it.
Yeah, I feel
Movie
like
making,
it
like
helps.
all of this.
It's gonna, the breadth of which you can engage in once you learn English is so much broader and deeper in terms of, yes, business, but then culture, entertainment, like socially.
And that is almost now it's systemic.
Exactly.
Even the cultural part is systemic. It's like, yes, at some point someone in Hollywood probably said this movie is going to go global and the industry is going to go global, but that was 100 years ago or whatever that is. And so today it's part of the system, and that part is going to be hard too.
Yeah.
It doesn't need changing because we don't want less people speaking English. We want more English as a first language people to learn other.
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to think about what language makes sense as a secondary language. Obviously Spanish is I think pretty big up there just because of but is there a different one? Is there a reason behind it? Like it's an open question, is that part of it? Like, because I think right now it can feel like there's a lot of choice of what you want that second language to be. But if a lot of people are jumping on board with one, then it's sort of a different thing because then more people are speaking it together. And I know that's happening with Spanish.
It's a really big point because I think when you talk about it, Roman, you say, starting in elementary or middle school in Europe, you're learning English.
Yes.
When we enter that conversation, obviously much later, as we discussed, it's, do you want German, French, Spanish, Latin,
Korean,
yeah, I mean, maybe
Mandarin.
now, like,
Yeah.
I mean, at least in high school, at least Latin, German, Spanish, and French are like 4 options immediately. And to Biz's point, if everyone's doing, the more you're surrounded by friends who are also engaging in the
Totally.
language, the more you might be like, okay, let's sound stupid
Totally.
together. Like, we're going to sit around at home and try to speak this language. But I didn't have any friends who, like, in my close circle that were also learning German. You know, like, I think it's a really interesting point, the limiting factor.
I think it's a good point, and I have a suggestion. I think for the next 45 minutes, we should just focus on one language.
Okay.
To be like, how do you get? And I suggest that language to be Spanish because it's an official language.
Yeah.
It's an official language in the U.S.
Yeah.
And it floors me that it's an official language and most people don't know it.
Yeah.
And people don't know it, they don't speak it, right?
Yeah.
So even though I think, to answer your question, Biz, there could be an argument for other languages.
Yeah.
Like, I think my second one would probably be Mandarin Chinese, but that if we focused on Spanish and already having like scratched like the surface on the cultural component, then suddenly it becomes like, okay, we're gonna have a little more levers and tools if we focus on one language, I think.
And having everybody around you speaking it, I think will help.
Because back to your point, which is like now unrelated, but in France, as I was growing up, there was a thing that if you didn't take German as a first language or a second language, you couldn't access the best colleges, prep schools, and all of that.
German?
And my generation was right at this transition when people started not caring about that and ignored it. So my older brother, hey bro, he did English as a first language, German as a second language.
You mean
because
the Gates?
Exactly, he's gonna understand you. And I was like, F that, I'm gonna do Spanish because, like, look at the planet, people speak more Spanish than German. I don't care about the things, and I'm not the one who invented this. It was my generation that started shifting, right? But it was a thing, back to your point.
Yeah.
And it was nonsensical.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of like the history and everything, but it was nonsensical. So anyway, that's just to justify your point.
Because I agree with you, we should focus on the one language. It helps the conversation. But I do want to point out, maybe socially, that I think it's really hard for kids especially, but I'm going to say for everybody, to feel stupid and embarrassed.
Yeah.
And inherently learning another language, you have to be really comfortable looking, feeling, sounding stupid, and sometimes being embarrassed. And I think it's an incredibly hard thing for people, but all of a sudden, when everybody around you that you know, your social circle, you're all in the same boat, it makes it so much easier. So much easier. So, like, I know we're moving on from that point, but like, it's I do think actually, just in general, though, minimizing the shame and embarrassment somehow of making mistakes in the process is something that either people just have to personally overcome or we have to socially overcome, because I think it's so hard.
Well, I think it's more opportunities to flex that muscle. Like, I mean, I don't know the stats on this, but I just feel like in general, a lot of Americans don't travel as much as you do in Europe, or because I mean, part of it is like, I mean, it's so easy to go into a different country.
When you're in Europe,
you
get on the train in your car.
And like within an hour or two, suddenly you're in a totally different language and environment. And the muscle of that vulnerability of like being in a place where you know nothing, and despite that, navigating a menu or, the toll guy or whatever, like we just don't have that many opportunities for that.
To flex it.
But like more, like instilling more opportunities beyond just like leisure into the process, I think are interesting.
Okay, I have an idea.
Because I think when you're forced to do it, when it's like
100%
about a passport or about like something crucial where you have to figure it out how to communicate with the person, even if you don't know the language, is important.
I think that there should be an entire series of restaurants across the U.S. where they're designed. Obviously, there are literally restaurants where
everywhere,
like people don't speak English, but like designed specifically for people who are learning Spanish. Now we're going to focus on Spanish, where no words of English are going to be spoken.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, you can't find your words, you're stumbling your way through, how are you going to overcome it? Because I think that's the muscle to practice. I mean, first of all, I think that in practice is very helpful in context, but
Massive.
also I think you learn the most when you overcome the like, I'm stuck. Like, I don't know how to ask for this thing I'm trying to ask for. So I'm going to find my way there through maybe the 7 other words that I think I know.
Yeah.
And I think that we should have like, I don't know, a restaurant chain, or just a bunch of restaurants in cities and around the US where,
Do you think that's the way to go today? Like, or do you think just it's too easy to avoid? I don't know. Where my head's going is like, well, today, if you want it, there's plenty of places in America where, and that's the beauty of it. Like, for example, slight segue, but slight tangent, not segue. When you live in Miami, your life is going to be drastically different if you speak Spanish.
Totally.
In a drastically like better, because like first of all, you're showing that you're trying, and there's many places in America, which is a good thing. Spanish is an official language where people don't speak English. It exists, is what I mean, I guess. But people just don't go because probably some of them there's probably a bit of I'm ashamed that I don't speak the language component. There's the fear of like appearing dumb because even if you speak, then your accent's not great and your grammar's not great. That's why I don't speak German. Blah, blah, blah.
But that's why I think you need to create the safe space for it, because like 2 things happen. Either the barrier's already there because you're like, exactly, I don't want to sound like an idiot. Or I think a lot of those places, you still default to English to solve the problem, to try to get there. And I'm like, if you create both a safe place where every single person in there is sitting at the tables is probably sounding as dumb as you are, but also there is truly, truly no opportunity to default to English, I just think it could help. Like,
I'm getting excited by the thought of attaching it to like something that someone really wants, a reward.
Yeah.
So like in order to open up the Labubu that you finally just stood in line for, you have to
say the magic word.
You have to pay and do it in whatever language.
Yeah, in Spanish.
Or or I think about places like Noodles and Company where they have a dish from all around the world, different noodles.
And shout out Noodles and Company.
Shout out Noodles and Company. In order to order that dish at Noodles and Company, you have to order it in the language
That's cool.
amazing.
from the origin.
I love that.
But like,
that's
how
not
do you...
really how it is.
Oh, okay.
But no, but I like the
that's not how it is. But like, I like the idea of attaching it in systems that already exist to things that people really want, because you want that thing. So like, you're gonna go through the pain of and the uncomfortability of getting there to still get the thing that you want.
I love that. Like, if you have a super cool restaurant that has a secret menu, and the secret menu can only be ordered in Spanish, and you're just like, I mean, that's cool. Like, you can order off the regular menu if you want, but like, I love that. I love that. Put it in high reward is super cool. I mean, I think for
things that people already want, because I think some of the mistakes that brands or companies make is they assume that if they create something, people will want it, and it's just usually not true. You know what I mean? Like, it as a sort of like behavior activation, like you have to partner and collab with things that already are considered high value, high reward.
Yeah, I like the idea of turning language into, I think right now so many of the programs we have make learning the language itself the reward.
Yeah.
But what if you turn language, it's just what you're saying, turn language into the barrier between you and something you want.
Exactly.
And then you're like, well, I have no choice here. But I think that and survival are like the other two. I mean, like, my experience growing up, obviously in the US, is yes, if you walked into a place that was dominantly Spanish speaking, but you spoke English, people would adjust around that. And when I lived in Mexico City, I remember the very first time I had like it was at the grocery store, and like something happened, and I said something in English and they were just like, I have no idea what you're saying. And I was like, oh shit, like, what am I going to do? And this is why people talk about immersion being a very beneficial way to learn language. But I think you have to, actually turn it into a proper barrier.
Yeah.
I think is really cool.
There's this very sweet older woman on TikTok who I watch. I forgot her name. It's like Therese or Patrice or something. But she's learning English. And so every day she goes to like a Starbucks or like some like drive-through window and she films herself ordering like something. And she's like stumbling through it and it's really sweet. And she's a big personality.
I love that.
But I don't know. It makes me also think if there's sort of like a trend or like how do you kick it off in culture as something that, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think we value, but for better or worse, overcoming things. And like we talk about that in fitness and wellness.
Totally.
But like, how do you make the charm of learning a language as a goal something that is like culturally significant online?
I think that's a separate idea than what, because I
was shifting into a new,
because I think there's two paths. There's either turn language itself into a barrier between a person and something they want, or turn the goal of learning a language into something that's more culturally resonant. And maybe we have to do a little bit of both. But I feel like I'm so stuck on your first one because I think it would actually work faster.
Totally.
Than trying to convince people that it's, because I think at least, my generation, like, it's not like anybody's thought learning a language was not a thing, like not a good thing. No one was against it.
For the most part now. Yeah.
There was no motivation or system around you to hold you accountable to it or like to do it.
Yeah, I just think we're so obsessed with like making ourselves better.
Yeah,
and for some reason in particular,
I see where you're going.
Americans don't see being able to communicate with more people and being more culturally fluent across different cultures as something that makes them better.
So the final frontier of biohacking is learning a second language.
Yeah, like so I'm sure the stats on what it does for your brain, your memory, your intelligence
we didn't talk
like
about it, but yes,
are huge. You know,
yes.
like
I think we just cracked it.
So I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting. Like, I also do think that there is sort of like a wave of when we hit the optimization so far that it's just based off of our functionality, that it's going to continue to grow into like optimizing you to be like a more like nuanced person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think we're like close to getting there.
Yeah.
You're seeing some of it with like the different sort of like the philosophy boy trending online right now, where it's like, he's not just a hot boy, he also reads books, but like
carries his tote bag.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, here's his tote bag and is like, he doesn't order a Frappuccino, he orders like a specific cortado because he's like, it says something about him, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of interesting to like fold that in, but that's just my tangent about philosophy boys and TikToks. What? Basically, we need Jacob Elordi to talk about how cool and fun it is and how much better he is than everyone else by having all these languages.
I may or may not follow an Instagram account called like Hot Men Who Read.
That's for another time.
Is that the subject of this talk? Did we cover reading already? I believe we did, but
damn, we should have talked about that then. Maybe we did.
Yeah.
Is this the part where like men read each other like bedtime stories that you talked about once?
I did talk about that once. That wasn't bedtime stories. It was men calling each other to say goodnight.
Oh,
I do love that. The best, the best.
I loved to like.
Bro, I just wanted to say I love you and like hope you have a good night.
But what's
are you okay?
What's the language version of this that makes it like cute and sweet and weird and but funny? You said, there's a bit of everything. I don't know what the language version of that is.
I feel like Biz's example of Therese Patrice.
Yeah, that's
it's sort of that a little bit. Like I think
I can't remember her name right now.
I think having I go back to like the most people that we see, let's take influencers or creators from that perspective. Most people we see, we're seeing already good at something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think what I really love about that, and I think what we're going to see more of as people crave more authenticity, even though that sounds so cliche, but it's true, is watching people try to become good at something instead of already being good at something. And I think that's going to be highly motivating if we shift, like, even thinking about your optimization point, even though I do think it would be interesting to see what happens if you put language in the optimization conversation. I think people would suddenly be far more interested, and there's reasons to your point that you could. But as people sort of are burning out on like seeing everybody reach peak perfection and like be like following people who are, you know, following an influencer who's super fit telling you to get fit is kind of, to me, at some point, not as motivating as following somebody who's just starting their journey and going through. And I think with
really
language,
like
it could be the same thing.
Yeah, it's like from perfection to like in practice, I think is like really interesting. Is like sort of the vulnerability of like all the things that we always talk about, like the presence and like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's back to that shift that we're slowly seeing in culture about like people just being tired of needing to be pros at everything.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, can I just do it for fun? There's also that component.
There's also that,
which is a slight tangent. It's related, but it can go a different direction. It's like, to your point, Biz, language brings you so much, right? Like there's cognitive things, there's aging things, there's obviously cultural things, open-minded. Like there's a lot of things, like getting out of your filter bubble, like having not a just mono something view of the world. And that doesn't require you to be a pro. Like there is something about, I mean, there's something you're seeing like if people after 40, 45, 50 are like, oh yeah, I'm just going to learn Japanese just for fun. Okay, that's cool. But it's also, how do you do that but for younger people?
Well, it is.
Why are you laughing?
Because
what are you giggling at?
I think in 6 months from today, we should try to do a pod episode in French.
Oh my God. Sure. My dyslexia is like going to.
Yeah, I'm down, I guess.
I guess we should pick a language none of us know. So maybe
an easy one.
Yeah.
I don't know what's an easy language.
Anyway, I just was imagining just
do you think...
Wait, sorry. I feel like I cut you off.
Yeah, we cut you off.
Just that like, I think it is really fun to learn a language.
It is.
It's just not fun in the ways that we traditionally learn it in the US.
Yeah.
Which is like through very rigid,
it's like music.
Isolated testing. Yeah. But like the first thing anyone ever wants to know is like, what are your swear words in that other language? What makes you most interested in it? It's like everything we've been talking about, music, movies, like
food.
Yeah. You want to know food. You want to know slang. And like, that's fun. And it's fun to connect with people too. That sounds so cheesy coming out of my mouth, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I think like it's just funny that the way that we're taught it is through, it's the same like pain of trying to learn like calculus. It's just awful.
Yeah.
But what do you think about a Duolingo? Because obviously that's a big part of what they making language learning fun was.
I was going to ask that exact question.
Well, I beat you to it.
Thank you for asking it.
It's an open question because like if you had asked me even 20 minutes ago, I feel like my answer might have been different than what it is now having this conversation. But
I've picked up Duolingo so many times, but I have not stuck with it past like maybe 2 weeks.
What would make you keep going? Or what would have made you keep going?
I don't think that it is fun enough from like an immersive personal standpoint. There's a point when you get past, and it's always where I kind of stop, where I start to learn enough vocabulary that I should be able to have a little bit of a light conversation, and they introduce you to a fake FaceTime with like an owl or something, or like some character. And at that point, I kind of want a real, like it would be interesting at that point. And if a real person picked up.
I agree. I think part of Duolingo should be you need to get through the real conversation test.
Yeah.
A simple one. Yeah. Go order coffee with Therese Patrice at Starbucks. Get to
you need a pen pal.
But not only for, I think it is part of what you're saying. It's like the reward you're getting from like getting yourself understood in a language you didn't speak like a few weeks ago, even for a simple thing. That's incredible. Like it is incredible. It's like, oh, they get me. Like, you see what I mean? So Duolingo should have a component of, to get through the next stage, you need to show that you had a real conversation, whatever it is, whether they put you FaceTime with a human, whether whatever. Like, there should be like an actual human social reward to it.
I brought this up the last podcast and it's like hot on my mind right now. But I do think the thing that we all at the end of the day want is to just be deeply understood by other people. And there's something about learning language just in general, verbal language, any verbal language is so limiting. But the more that you learn, the more opportunities you have to be able to express yourself.
Totally.
Because different words in different contexts and different languages, like there are words in Japanese that are so much more expansive than any single word in English can do.
In German too, actually. It's very common.
And like I think that's like so beautiful. And I don't know. That's not really like as like from an urgent sort of motivation standpoint isn't there, but I just think it's like it's
a beautiful benefit.
It's really beautiful.
Do you think everyone is capable of learning a second language? Like I think about this a lot because I have the worst pronunciation in any language I've ever learned. Like when I go to Germany and I speak German, I'm using all the right words and people are often like, what? Like, and I think my comprehension has always been better than my ability to speak in it. And I know that you can practice that, but I've always wondered, you hear like some people are really natural at learning languages. Some people are really good at accent and pronunciation, and some people aren't. And I'm just like, as we're talking about it, I'm wondering if it's really an even playing field for everyone, or
I don't think it is.
Some people just not destined for it.
Every brain's unique, and some are excellent at math and others struggle a little bit, and excellent at arts and struggle.
And I guess it's like anything.
I think it's like anything. I think like for sure some people, it's easier for some people. I think so. I think we've all seen it, witnessed it, experienced it. You see what I mean? It's like, so no, I don't think it's an even playing field. I think that's a good point. But even if I think everything we're talking about, it's still opt-in, right? It's not a competition.
Totally.
But that brings that thought of like, what if there was a competitive component to language learning? Give back to the point about most humans have a competitive bone in their body. It's more than they want to admit. Generally speaking.
It's funny because, I mean, you know how I feel about competition. I normally go straight there, but this is one space where I actually feeling like you're not alone and feeling sort of a sense of togetherness is potentially stronger than any desire to be the best. Like,
that's interesting.
I think it's because like I go back to the shame and embarrassment part, and like that is better shared than it would actually weaken. I think if you introduce a competitive element, if the goal is to, let's say, get 20% of Americans to start speaking Spanish as a second language, I think actually if you introduce a competitive element, half of those people end up dropping off because they feel like when they feel embarrassed or shame or they feel like bad, the motivation to keep going isn't there versus the shared experience of it all. I think you end up losing people along the way.
Yes.
I think the reward piece I like better. Like if you make that the competitive angle, back to Biz's point of like, if there was one special Labubu that like only a few people could get, like I think that making that fun, but I think just the direct competitiveness of who's learning the best or the fastest, I don't feel like is actually as motivating.
Well, because I like it off of your thing of like less perfection and more just like kind of practice, because the reward is not about if you did it the best, but more did you try?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I think trying or effort is like a good thing to reward in this space.
Yeah.
But you could make a competition around that. Not about being the best of the language, but the most effort put in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. You could be
Like-
you could be the worst at speaking it, but you try it everywhere
But you made
go,
yourself
and like,
more vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
could be
competition
sort of
around
like a,
vulnerability is more interesting to
Yeah.
me than a competition around the language
Yeah.
itself. I
'Cause,
think
like,
that's interesting.
Keep talking.
Well, it's what Biz just said. Like, if you make the competition, how many times this week did you try?
Yeah.
Even if 49 of those 50 times you sounded like a damn fool and nobody knew what you were
Yeah.
trying to ask
Yeah.
for, you won this week because you went for it. I think that's more interesting than like the success of speaking.
Yeah, I mean, I can barely pronounce most English words.
Yeah.
Like I have like I'm an adult. I don't
You're
know what it
doing
is.
great.
We're figuring it out. Is it dyslexia? Is it a speech impediment? We don't know. But I am down to be stupid, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm very down to learn, you know?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think more opportunities to when learning a language, to your point, not be right, but to try.
Yeah,
I think is like the biggest barrier there.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a interlude with a good anecdote for you guys.
Okay, go ahead.
It made me think of that.
I thought you were going to make us learn French for a second.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
why
thought
don't
you were
we do
gonna be-
that?
I thought
That
you
is
were
a
gonna-
good idea.
Put what I said to a test.
Yeah,
and
I
make
that's
me
a
say it.
very
I
good
can't.
idea.
I
Last
very
5
hard
minutes,
French
we're
word.
going to
Yeah.
speak French. That's
Yeah.
so good. Oh my God, thank
Yeah.
you.
Damn it.
I have a good anecdote. There's one thing in English that I learned through trauma,
Okay.
and it's how double E is pronounced differently than I in a word. So I was at a camp. It was an English speaking camp. I was like 13 years old, and I show up to like the bed bunks, whatever, with all the
Yeah.
other boys, and my bed doesn't have bed sheets.
Oh, God.
And I show up to the dude who, like, he wasn't even a counselor. He was like janitor, whatever, the guy in charge of like setting everyone
Facilities.
up day one.
Yeah.
And I show up, I'm like, he's like, everything good? I'm like, yes, but I don't have bed sheets. He's like, what? I'm like, I have no bed sheets.
Yeah. Oh no.
And he's like, are you trying to make a joke?
yeah.
Like, and
And-
so like
and
I
you're
was
just a kid.
traumatized. I was
Yeah.
just a kid who was trying to sleep in a bed sheet, with
Yeah.
like maybe
You were like,
a
I
bit
have
of a
no
comforter,
shits.
and I have no shits.
Yeah.
And that was like, he looked at me, thought I was the rudest boy ever.
Was
sent me
he
back.
French too?
No. He was like English speaking.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God. That's
Yeah, and it was
incredible.
traumatizing. So now
That's
I
a
know
perfect,
I
like-
know what a
Yeah.
sheet is and what the other one is. I know when I go to the beach and what the other one is. I know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, learning through trauma. Sometimes it
Learning
works, you
through
guys.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's so good. That's so good.
I'll take you up on the last 5 minutes of
No,
of
please,
French.
I
Just
can't.
you own the clock. So let me know how we're doing.
Oh, then perfect. I won't tell you.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe that's a little too loaded of a conversation because it might get a touch political. But let's see where it goes, because there's a thing about I don't know where that thought's going. There's a thing about identity. I think, to go back to this year's conversation, it's like, like it's part of your identity when you're like a runner or like some kind of athlete or a writer or
Yeah.
like some kind of arts. Is it part of your identity when you're like a fluent or a Spanish speaking person? I don't know that it is. It is when it's part of your origins and you're like Mexican American and like, or you're an immigrant and, Italian American, French American, whatever.
Mhm.
But it's not really when you're just learning something and you get good at it the same way it is when you get good at arts,
Yeah.
sports, whatever your passion is.
Yeah, I'm not going to be fully articulate here, but I feel like there's sort of like a there's different associations with it, right? And I think that's some of, to your point, like a bit of the political nuance of it here.
Yeah.
Of like, if you are a wealthy white kid in a private school who's traveled a lot and you have a second language, and then it's sort of, it is an identity and it's cool and you're you know. But if you are an immigrant in this country and you know a second language, then it's not cool.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't really have the credentials to speak on all that, but it does make me think sort of like Heartland and like within the school system and like how you just get more sort of people speaking a second language within that. You know, I think that's sort of like the basis of a lot of what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Through systems, you know, just making it more common and more sort of like culturally exciting, but also benign. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And less about sort of like privilege and access.
Yeah, totally.
From a socioeconomical lens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I completely agree. I think maybe there's another lane as well, which is, I think, because it is such a limited.
Yeah.
I don't know the number. Well, no, you said at the beginning, what, 7%?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, so
yes, it was 7%.
I think
you feel that they can speak well or very well. Yeah.
Way more people consider themselves runners, I think. Yes. And so I feel like what happens, even if that people see it as like a flex in sort of a cocky, egotistical way, instead of being, and it's because of your own embarrassment that like you don't speak a second language, but it's kind of, I think it has this thing, instead of people really admiring it, and because it's it's almost a niche, I think people find it like, oh, well, you think you're cool? Like, and it's a really weird, I hadn't, until you asked the question, I hadn't thought about how bizarre it is that there's not sort of this that it's more of a flex than an identity. And I mean, running, I think at some point was kind of like that as well. It's interesting to think about, when did running turn from sort of this flex into mass, and at least more mass than it used to be. Yeah. And like, how do you make that turn into something where it feels more, I mean, I don't know. It's really interesting. I think more often you're sort of like eye rolling at someone, but it's because of your own
insecurity.
Your own insecurity. Yeah.
I have a separate thing that's just popped in my head.
Go for it.
I think some of the issue now is the technology that we have is making us able to avoid learning a language.
Totally.
So like there's like, if on iMessages, you can very easily just now hit translate. It does it for you. You're set. You don't.
It does?
Yes. Yeah. So like there's someone in my life that only speaks Spanish. I only speak English. We text and we both use translation. Yeah. And it's seamless.
Oh, I had no idea.
It's totally seamless. And it's pretty good too.
Significant Paris. Let's do it.
But my thing is like, what if that didn't do it for me, but it actually helped me learn the language in the process?
Yeah.
Of still getting my outcome of communication, but it had some sort of like minor, like, I don't know if it's like Duolingo / iMessage or WhatsApp, but like there should be a slight interruption of like, oh, you want to say this time, arrive at this time. You have 3 options. Which one is right? Click it.
Or,
you know what I mean? Or something.
I actually really love the idea of pushing some of the learning through texting versus speaking, because I think it helps. It obviously can't be everything, but think about how right now when you text, it automatically like auto-correcting spelling. Yeah. You do the same thing where you're like, okay, I'm going to switch into Spanish learn mode. Yeah. And it's like, cool. And so I'm texting you. I'm like, hey, do you want to meet at the office tomorrow? Whatever, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, red underline, like that word doesn't make sense. Or like, I think, because now it started doing it with grammar too. I think it's interesting because it's not it is that not only the context and the like practical application of it, but it is sort of the way that our brains have been trained now to kind of learn and communicate and interact. And I think having the platform actually texting could be a really interesting way to propel the learning of a second language.
Yeah, it's interesting. Use technology to learn, not do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all just, I mean, even when you go on an Instagram caption, right, it will just say like, see the translation.
Yeah.
And it's like, what
Any
are
website,
these like
anything.
little UX interruptions that could actually facilitate learning a
love
language
that.
opposed to just being translated?
It's so good.
Yeah. It's funny. It makes me think of something completely different when you're talking about texting is like, I'm now like, obviously I talked about it before, but I'm a dad and I'm at the point where we are at the point, where there's like 3 generations of texting and they're all different. So my kids are like, you text like a dad.
Yeah.
And I think of my dad
Yeah.
as him texting like a dad.
Yeah.
Like we're like, we've all adopted our own.
Do you sign every text, Dad?
No, I don't. I don't sign every text. I don't text like my dad.
Yeah.
I text like our generation.
Yeah.
But I do
What
say.
are the like most common?
I think more abbreviation, like the text generation, more abbreviation, less punctuation, less.
You spell too many things all the way out.
Yeah, I spell too many things. I
Okay.
say hi at the beginning of the text. Those kind of things.
Yeah. Or just like,
Those are called manners.
Yeah, welcome to my dinner table. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I love Dad Roman.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah,
text
yeah.
like a dad.
Yeah. One day we should have the kids on the pod.
Oh my God.
Definitely.
Yes.
I've offered my daughter, but and she's not listening because she doesn't want to listen to her dad on a podcast, but she hasn't. I was like, it's up to you. You can come on the pod. I'm not forcing you. She never brought it up again.
I want Ruby from the podcast.
Yeah, Ruby's
I think
wild.
Ruby and Gemma on a pod together would be incredible.
Yeah, that would
Truly
be amazing.
incredible.
Yeah.
It would be funny to do a kids crack it edition where
Oh,
you
God.
just
They probably crack it before we ever do.
you just mic'd them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you to just avoid the studio setup.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like mic them up,
Yeah.
put them both in a room upstairs, like with like drawings and
Yeah.
stuff. And
See if they can crack it.
and
Yeah.
just like, hey,
Just
you
give
gotta
them one of
crack
those-
that thing. Okay, you guys chat.
Yeah.
And then
Incredible.
Yeah,
Little
Incredible.
microphones.
I love it.
That would be really good.
All right. You have.
There's something that one last thing. We haven't talked about friction maxing, which is like
Our
such
new
a
favorite,
trend,
yeah.
a new favorite trend of the
Yeah.
moment. And to me, it's so applicable to this.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it is a little bit of the like, hey, Duolingo, please add a real life component to it. But to me, that was more like the social reward that you're getting from it. But there is
I
like
think we
in
did
learning,
talk about it.
Yeah.
I think we just didn't label it. But I think
Yeah.
almost everything we talked about was a sense of friction maxing. Like
Yeah.
make a restaurant where literally you have no other option. It's a choice. It's an active choice to take a slightly harder path that
Yeah.
actually has friction because friction feels, the reward feels better. I think we just didn't label it that. What are you
Yeah.
thinking, Biz?
Well, I guess it's kind of fun off of that. Like, I agree we talked about all of that, but as a singular dedicated goal to slow down and make your life a little more pleasantly painful, like there's nothing better than learning a language. Like, oh my God, it's just like, you can't be faceted if you want, you know?
Yeah.
But then I think we talked about like within that, all the ways to actually help implement it. But I like it as like, I guess that's maybe where the running things come in.
Yeah.
It's like we all like pick up these like hobbies or interests of like, I this is the year that I run the marathon. It's like, how do you do this is the year where I learn French?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Which language would you learn if you could learn one today?
Spanish
You, Biz?
Spanish.
Okay.
or French, so that I know every time that you're actually
I
talking
curse
shit
and I'm
about,
talking shit about you guys?
all of us.
Uh,
Wait, can I ask one quick question? Have either of you tried the feature on the AirPods that automatically translates?
no,
I didn't know that existed.
it does. You need to,
Yeah,
We
I
can
haven't.
try it. We
I
should try
really
it.
want to
Let's try it
it
after this.
Okay, I've always wanted
I'm
to
going to
try
talk to you
it.
in French
Crazy.
and you got to see
Yeah.
if it works.
Okay.
All right, cool. I'm going to wrap us up. So we had lots of like tactical executional ideas that were pretty interesting. You know, we started at like at an education level. Why is it in arts? Move it to business. Make it a little more appealing. We talked about culture and kids entertainment. talk about vulnerability and shame a lot, because that is a feeling that people have when they're like feel that they're not, completely proficient. So how do you create safe spaces to encourage this? Your idea of like restaurants was really interesting, where you can only speak one language, like Spanish, because we decided to focus on Spanish. Biz, you brought up like just put in a high reward for things that people actually want. So that's when you went to secret menu and things like that, which is also really fun. I talked about the social friction, the social reward. Like, what if like the apps used a real life component of it to get you to the next level, right? And there's more than the test, there's the reward that you get from it. And overall make it about the fun and the cultural fun and the social fun versus like the access and the flexing that leads to the eye roll and the shaming, and all of this is interconnected. And then finally, tactically went to technology, right? You were just talking about AirPods, but Biz, you mentioned like all the texting and the relationship you have with someone who's not English speaking and you're not Spanish speaking, and you can just use tech to communicate. But what if that technology was about learning as opposed to doing it for you?
I love it.
So lots of tactical executions for like a big subject that probably required more philosophical, maybe political conversations.
Yeah.
Who knows? So anyway, Jesse, did we crack it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. See?
Biz, did we crack it?
No. No, I think I think we're very close. The only thing I think left is hey, this is I think we might have cracked it,
Bien sûr.
I think the bigger thing though is like who's dictating all of these things. Like I think we created a lot of interesting behaviors that would actually be motivating, but
Totally.
where is that coming from? Is
That
it from the
overarching thing.
government? Is it from a brand? Is
I
it
agree.
from like, and I think that is probably the biggest thing. So no, we didn't crack it.
And that is why I'm going to close with my best French accent.
Wait, how would you say crack it
think
in an hour
we
in
did not
French?
crack it at all. And because I'm very French, and I agree with you, Biz, I think the Korean example was really good. The Korean government decided to invest in bringing Korean culture outside of the country, and we did not crack it. All right. Thank you for listening, guys. What?
How do you say crack it? How would you say, what's the translation? Not literal, but like the concept of crack it in an hour in French.
I think the question should be, what is the concept in Québécois? Because in French, we would say,
What?
I know that. I know.
But in Québécois, they would find a word because they're very good at not using English.
I know.
So I would
Okay.
I would have to think on this.
Okay.
All right.
It'd be
Thank
like-
you for listening. See you
Bye.
next week for another episode of Crack It in an Hour. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. If you like the show, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you have questions, thoughts, or feedback, shoot us an email at hello@crackitpodcast.com or on Instagram @crackitpodcast. Music done by Michael Anastasi, cover art shot by Mick Mint, and all things audio and video taken care of by Nathan Nash. See you next time.